Well, supporters of mass immigration are always telling you that all immigration, no matter where it's from or who's coming, is good for America. They seldom give you numbers to back that up because there aren't any. Here's some other numbers. A new report by the Center for Immigration Studies found that more than half of all refugees in this country are currently on food stamps, living off taxpayer largesse. They're not the only ones benefiting from the U.S. welfare state. Even illegal immigrants are receiving welfare on behalf of their children, who are automatically treated as U.S. citizens. It has long been assumed that anyone born here is automatically a citizen, and the Constitution requires that. But in fact, that might not be the case. In a recent Washington Post piece, former Trump administration official Michael Anton argued the president could issue tomorrow an executive order that the children of illegal immigrants are not to be treated as citizens. And why wouldn't he do that? Could the president do that? And if so, why isn't he? Victor Davis Hanson is a senior fellow at the Hooper Institution. He joins us tonight. Victor Davis Hanson, thanks very much for coming on. So it's a simple question. If it is true that the Constitution does not mandate citizenship for anyone born here, regardless of status or the status of his parents, then why are we acting like that's the law?
Well, I think it's because the 14th Amendment following the Civil War was aimed to address the problems of post-Civil War slavery. Nobody really who drafted that law dreamed that we would have 4 million people born to foreign nationals, most of whom were here illegally, who would be granted citizenship. So it's kind of murky, and we have about 150 years of jurisprudence that can't quite adjudicate what they meant, and we have a court difficulties and disagreements. But I think what we could do, Tucker, is that we're the only real country that people want to go here, with the exception of Canada, that allows birth tourism or to people to become citizens whose parents are not only not citizens but may be here illegally. Europe doesn't do it. The most liberal socialist countries in Europe, Asia, most of Africa, they do not do it. It's mostly a New World phenomenon, and it's really only applies to the United States because that's where people want to come. So it's something that's archaic, and I think we could modify it. We could do it escalate. We could say, in 5 years, we're going to gradually go into a law where one parent must be a citizen, or if you have 2 resident aliens, they must be here, say, for 5 years of residency or 10 years of residency, and they have to be legal. But the idea you would give instant citizenship to somebody born of 2 parents that were here illegally, it's incoherent.
Well, it's of course rewarding their illegal status, but it also suggests that the people awarding the citizenship don't value citizenship, that it's meaningless to them. Do you want leaders who don't consider American citizenship a prize?
Well, it's part of a leveling process we've seen with progressivism, that all hierarchy, all rules, all requirements are trying to be done away to achieve this utopian goal of, and equality of result, and it leads to tangential problems. And people who are here illegally, 55% of the households in California are on some sort of public assistance, federal, state, or local, and maybe half of the households nationwide. And that's what you'd expect when about over half of our immigrants come with a lot of disadvantages. They come illegally, they come without a high school diploma, they come without English, they come to a society that no longer values a melting pot and assimilation and integration, but does really, as a humane society, we want to provide parity, and the only way we can do that is massive social welfare assistance and anchor babies, and the whole idea of granting citizenship almost to anybody who comes who happens to have a child here.
I mean, if we're rewarding foreign nationals who break our laws, why should I have to pay my taxes? Why should I, as an American citizen, obey the laws? I mean, I guess that's a rhetorical question, but what's the message that we're sending? I have to obey every law or else I go to jail, but a foreign national can show up and give the finger to our justice system and get rewarded for it. How does that work exactly?
I don't know, but I can tell you that if I have a false ID and I use a false ID or a double identity, that's a felony and my career's ruined. And yet the IRS said over the last 4 or 5 years there was 1 million people here illegally who had a false ID and used that false ID. It's identity theft. And yet, when we look at ways to calibrate felonies or misdemeanors, people say, well, if you come here illegally and you reside here illegally and you use a false ID, that's not really serious enough grounds for deportation. But for you or me, you wouldn't be talking to me and I wouldn't be answering you tonight if we had false IDs. And yet over 1 million people have done it, and people don't consider it a crime.
Too bad Paul Manafort's an American citizen. Maybe he wouldn't be facing 305 years in prison for tax evasion. Professor, thank you. It's great to see you, as always. Really smart.
Thank you, Tucker.
We don't do a ton of environmental stories on this show, but there actually is a real environmental disaster unfolding in slow motion in the state of Florida. A red tide, the biggest in over a decade, clearing out beaches, killing marine life on a vast scale, wrecking the state. Why is this